Hi there, this is Diana Papilli with day 33 of 100 days of videos. So I've had a lot of introspection here these last few days. So I have it's a very serious question to ask, and yet it's important that I think we contemplate this question. The question is, what would you do if this were your last year of life? Now you're thinking, Diana, can you go a little easier on us? Well, yes, but I would like to start a little series on life balance. None of us is getting out of here alive. And I think it's important to periodically review our lives and just kind of look over our choices and what we're doing. So I had the rare privilege to watch my husband David pass away. I remember he knew a month before that he was terminal, and so he knew that he didn't have long to live. It was between major incidents of cancer, and this was the time that the cancer came back, and we knew the type of cancer that he had. We knew it's 100% fatal. So he had 3 years between incidents of cancer. So when he learned that he was terminal, he made the comment to me. We had several opportunities to have some serious heart-to-heart discussions. He made the comment to me. He said, "I wish I had more time." And I said to him, "I understand that. But tell me, David, what would you do with that time?" He became very pensive and very introspective. David had a way he could be very, very introspective and even very spiritual. And he said, he looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, "I worked so hard this last year." And he just kind of shook his head. And I said, "Okay." And then he responded, "I wished I would have done things that I enjoyed more." I asked him, "What would you have done?" "I would have traveled a little more. I would have made it over to the Oregon coast again." And he realized at that time that he was a bit out of balance. He had some major challenges with his work that last year that he was alive. And so he worked very hard to meet those challenges, which he did, and I was proud of him for that. But he just was sorry that he worked so hard, that he worked too hard. And he didn't have a little bit more joy in his life, that he took everything quite as seriously as he took. So trust me, I have had a lot of time, excuse me, to think about that. And I remember periodically. Now I find myself telling my friends I love them more, or I would make the effort to go back and visit my family in Illinois, or just make the effort to call somebody when I think, oh, I don't have time. And so having experienced that with David and still having the blessing of continuing to live, I've tried very hard to have a little bit more balance and perspective. So for the next couple of days, we're going to talk about life balance. And there's different kinds of life balance that we can have. What I talked about was the work-life balance, where we want to work, and our work is important, but we don't want to work so much to the detriment of our lives. And yet at the same time, we can't just live it up and not meet our responsibilities and our obligations. So it's about balance. So there's this external balance where we're juggling work and family and recreation and what have you. But there's an internal balance too. And so we're going to address some of these areas over the next few days. For example, when I say internal balance, we are actually comprised of 4 different elements. When I was a professional speaker, I did workshops on what I called the 4 me's. We have a spiritual element, we have or aspect, we have an intellectual or mental aspect, an emotional aspect, as well as a physical aspect. We have 4 aspects, or what I, like I said, simplified, I called it 4 me's. So I would like to take a look at these 4 me's. We'll start with the spiritual, and then over the next 4 days, we'll take a look at the emotional, the mental, the emotional, as well as the physical, and how we can work on keeping all 4 of these aspects in balance. So because I was in a retreat and because I experienced the passing of my mom in these last few days, I have been very much taking care of my spiritual aspect. So like I said, we'll start with that first, and then we'll cycle all the way through down into the physical. So for today, I'm not going to talk a lot about the whole work-life balance because we hear about that. But today, I challenge you to think about, are you working too hard? What would you do if this were your last year of life on earth and you weren't sick and bedridden or something, that nature? My mom had a wonderful last day of her life, according to the attendants at her nursing home. And she wasn't sick, and she passed very peacefully in her sleep. We should all be that fortunate. But think about, and I often think about this, what would I do differently if I knew this were my last year of life? Because I hate to say this, it might very well be. So remember, there are no guarantees in this world except for 2 of them. 1, that we're not going to get out of here alive, and 2, that we're going to make mistakes. So I'll leave you with that thought. This is Diana Papilli signing off for now, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.